Good evening, everyone. We are live, and I can see quite a few of you in the audiences who have started streaming in. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Thursday evening, afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. In the chat window, very quickly, if you could let us know which city you're dialing in from, really serves as an audio and video check for all of us, as well as lets us know where all our participants are coming in from today. You can see we're close to 100 people in the audience already. In the chat window, if you could let us know which city you're dialing in from. I am dialing in from Mumbai, and my fellow panelists here are joining us all the way from Singapore. So we have Saurabh Patel, who's also from Mumbai. If the rest of you could also let us know, we have people from Delhi, Hyderabad. Wow, quite a few of you who are streaming in from Delhi, I can see. Anyone else from any other region, someone from outside of India? We have someone from Nepal. Pranish, welcome, all of you to this wonderful masterclass, which is brought to you by Singapore Management University's Lee Kon Shan School of Business. And today's masterclass is about analytics-driven business transformation from data to strategy, in which we will explore how organizations can leverage data analytics for strategic success, cover key concepts, understand the advanced technique, and the challenges of implementing analytics-driven strategies. I am not an expert, but I will be introducing the expert to you very soon, who's going to be talking much more about this. So like I said, today's masterclass is brought to you by Singapore Management University, a premier university in Asia, which has an international recognition for its world-class research and distinguished teaching. Their mission is to generate leading-edge research with global impact and produce broad-based, creative, and entrepreneurial leaders for a knowledge-based economy. SMU, as most of you know, is known for its highly interactive, collaborative, and project-based approach to learning. So for all those of you who are tuning in, and if Singapore is your dream destination, I would really advise you to check out Singapore Management Universities. Before I go further, I'm going to do a quick introduction to the panel, starting with myself. My name is Sabahat Herzog. I'm the Associate Director at Seed Global Education. We're a UK headquartered company which facilitates interactions between top global universities like the one that we have here with us today and prospective students like yourself, giving you a chance to connect with the faculty and the program directors at these institutes, get an understanding of the programs that are being offered to help you make informed decisions about your higher education and, of course, your career plans. Joining me on the panel today is Dr. Zheng, who is an associate professor of strategic management at SMU and the academic director of the MIM program. Thank you so much, Professor, for taking out time and joining us on this wonderful Thursday evening. To give you a little bit background about him, his research focuses on corporate governance, innovation, and organizational learning. His work has been extensively published in some top journals. He is also a thought leader in management education and research, and is a recipient of multiple teaching awards. So yes, you are going to be getting to know a lot about this topic from him. Along with him, we also have Marie Go, who is the postgraduate admission manager at SMU. She has been dedicated to championing postgraduate programs at SMU, guiding prospective students like yourself who are looking to explore the various options and helping you find the right kind of programs that fit your goal. So in case if you have any admission related queries now or later, Marie is your go-to person. She and her team will take care of you and make sure that you are getting the right sort of guidance. I'm sure all of you are very excited to know a little bit more about the topic. But before I sort of hand over to Prof here, I'm going to run my first poll question for this evening on the screen in front of you. What are some of your biggest concerns regarding the ethical use of data? Are you someone who's sort of worried about the privacy violations? Is it the biases in algorithms, the lack of transparency, the misuse of data, or are all of these above things a cause of your concern with the ethical use of data? So to all close to 300 of you in the audience, if you could go ahead and cast your votes on the first poll question on the screen in front of you. What are some of your biggest concerns regarding the ethical use of data? I know I have some concerns. I'm really looking forward to this masterclass for Prof to let me know a little bit more about this. So I'm going to keep the poll running for a couple of more seconds before you go ahead and cast your votes. Very quickly, what are some of your biggest concerns regarding the ethical use of data? And it could be all of the above as well. With that, thank you, Camilla. I hope you've casted your vote. So I'm going to go and end the poll and share the results in the screen in front of you. So 59% of the audience today, Prof, have concerns about all of these, closely followed by the others who are worried about some or the other implications about the ethical use of data. With that, I now hand it over to you, Dr. Zheng, to take us through your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sabahat. That's a beautiful, beautiful introduction. Really appreciate that. And also, good evening, everyone. Let me just close this poll on my screen. And good evening, everyone. Very welcome all of you to this session. Thank you very much for your interest in SMU and also your meme program. Look at my backgrounds. Actually, this is a real actual classrooms, although it's just virtual backgrounds. And if you look through all of the window, you might see a logo, small logo there. It's a SMU logo, and also there is SMU connection, which is a new addition of the buildings in our beautiful campus. It is actually powered by the solar panels all over. So this is just to give you the impression of our campus and also our SMU. Later on, please feel free to ask us any questions if you are interested in this program and also anything related to admissions and also applications. For now, like what Lady Sabahat introduced, I'm going to give you a we call the master class. But in fact, I just wanted to take this chance to just to showcase some of our understandings of this important topic and also to show you some of the ways that we conduct our classes. So let me just share my screen here. Um, Okay, so I have this screen. Because of the time, I think I only have 30 minutes. So to do this presentation so that we try to get something, we wrap it up in a very intensive way. Um, and also, normally in the classrooms, we would have this verbal discussions, interactions. But for here, because we have so many participants to save the time, you can post your questions or post some of your comments in the chat box, but we probably won't have these discussions along the way. And also, I just wanted to utilize this 30 minutes to give you one concept that I think might be useful for you when you go out and to look for more information this business transformation, digital transformation, and also data analytics. So for today's session, I'm focusing on this analytics-driven business transformation from data to strategy. And we wanted to showcase how the data analytics can be utilized to drive the business transformation and how should we do it, right? And importantly is that how can we now utilize the data analytics to enable our better decision making. And we try to utilize some of the real examples to illustrate to you some of the basic concepts. In fact, if you look at this slides, to the right corner, you might say it's made in Gamma. In fact, I myself is also a learner because I think digital transformation is not only just for the business. Actually, it is for everyone, including me, right? And in the past several years, everything just happens so fast, and I have so many new things to learn. And one thing that I learned, I think, is the new skills I just unlocked for the past 2 weeks is that I utilize ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and also some of this AI video generators, right? In fact, it's very simple to do. So what I do is that I utilize this Gamma, and then I have this article that's right on the digital transformation, and then I feed this article into the ChatGPT, and then let them to give me, a summary of my content, and then I ask them, I'm going to give a master class to an Indian crowd, and I would have this and that requirement. And then the ChatGPT give me outlines of the slides, and then later on I utilize another softwares like a Gamma, and then I can create these slides. So in fact, of course, afterwards I also do my editing. But if you see the beautiful slides normally is made by AI, and some less beautiful slides actually is by editing. Right? So you can see that we are become less capable than the AI. I think this is something that is really the backgrounds that we all have to be aware. Is because digital transformation gonna to um, get into our life and get into our business very very soon, right? And it's gonna to change every aspects of how we doing business. So let's just start that to today, because I wanted to give you a story, so that I wanted to first of all introduce you some foundational concepts, and you just need to. I think many of these concepts might not be that difficult, or even for many of you might already be very familiar. We have four things that we wanted to utilize in the later real case. The first one is called the datization, right? The second one is called digitalization. The third one is called data visualization, and the fourth one is called advanced analytics. So these are the very fundamental concepts, but they are also pretty useful and also very fundamental. The digitization basically means datalization. That means you're going to transfer your physical data into the digital format. In fact, this is a thing that we normally talk about now, like the Internet of Things. We think Internet of Things is such an advanced topic, but in essence, it's really just to datalize, just to collect all the data from all the physical sensors. So you can put the sensors to collect the temperature. You can put the sensors to collect the humid. You can take the humidity. You can also put the temperature to capture the image. These are all the processes of digitize the physical signals into the data, into the digital world, kind of like a 0 1, right? And once you have the data, then you can do the analytics based upon that. The second one is called the digitalization. It's a different concept, and sometimes people don't really make the distinctions between them, because the digitalization is more of a technical issue. So that as long as you have the right, for example, if you have the camera, if you have the right sensor, you should be able to capture. But the digitalization, actually, it is a combination between the business process and also the digital technologies. Because in many cases, we have to change the way that we do business if we have to utilize the digital technologies. We cannot simply add on the digital technologies into the current business process. Sometimes the current business process is not compatible with the new technologies. If you just add on the digital technologies there, 1 plus 1 sometimes can be below 2, right? So in that case, we have to digitalize by changing or revising the way that we do business, the way that we carry out the business processes. The third one is called the data visualization. Data visualization basically means we wanted to transform the data into something that's more understandable, that's something that's more visual and accessible. This is very simple to understand, because if you have a vehicle, in the front there is a vehicle dashboard. In fact, the dashboard is a data visualization, because they would convert and combine all this data into something that's very easy to understand, right? So you with that dashboard, so you can see how fast your speed is. So you can know your fuel level. You can know the temperature of your gas tank, or of your engines. Many of these signals actually would be available to you, and also they would visualize so that you would be able to make the decisions based upon that. By that I mean, I can give you example. For example, the tire pressure. Right? Tire pressure is very important. And then maybe on your dashboard, there would be a screen to show your four tires. And then there would be the air pressures. So the numbers there, 32, 32, 32, 32. Right? So that would be the BPI, the air pressure. And this is the visualization. But then you can also add on more things, like you can put on the green, yellow, and red, just like the traffic lights. And if it's green, that means everything is okay, right? And if it's in the red or yellow, that means you probably have something wrong with your tires, and therefore you have to do something about it. So that's a very simple example of how the data would help you to make decisions and to take some actions, right? And we have the dashboards all in many, many different places and in many different contexts. The number four is called advanced analytics. This one means that we're gonna to see the patterns through the data. Sometimes we run the regressions, sometimes we run some analysis, quantitative analysis, so that we would be able to see something like how A is connected to B, how A is affecting B, right? And then we can start to see the predictions, right? So if you have all the charts for the past 10 years of the stock options, sorry, not stock options, the stocks, right? The financial stocks, many companies like Nvidia, you see all the price movements for the past 10 years. Can I make the prediction of what would be the price movements for the next week, for the next month, right? So this is advanced analytics, right? So we have many quantitative ways to do this, and we want to make it as accurate as possible. All right, so these are the four fundamental concepts, and in fact, we can you can test your understanding of these concepts, right? So these are the photos. Uh, excuse me. These are the photos that actually show some of the uses of these concepts, right? First of all, is that you can see clearly there are lots of the datalization, because what we see actually is the data, not really the physical signals anymore. We can actually use the remote control. We can see things thousands miles away, and by looking at just of the screens, and what is behind it is really just about digitalization, because all the things that computers or the cameras can capture, right, the images and also the temperatures, many signals now can be reflected on your screen. So that's called the digitalization. Second one is that you can see lots of these charts, pie charts, graphs. These are all the visualization, right? So that you would be able to see the pattern of the data. That's called the visualization. To the top right, you can see the robots. In fact, this would be a future manufacturing workshops, right? So we're going to have the sometimes we call the dark workshop, or sometimes we have the dark factories or no manless factories. So we have lots of the robots. This actually would reflect the idea of the digitalization, because robots, AI, digital tools, these are all very good for the productivity. But once you add them to this existing factories, you probably have to change the way that you do the manufacturings and also the way that you do business. For example, right? So before in the factories, you needed to have human beings, but human beings, you need to have the shifts, right? Human beings cannot work for 24 hours. And then you have to arrange for the shifts. They have to have the lunch break. They have to have their toilet break. And also you have to have the supervisors, right? So there would be some organizational structures. All of this one will not apply to the robots, right? So robots can work 24 hours, 7 days a week. They also do that without the fatigue, right? So they can continuously working, right? And also they have no emotions, right? So when you have the robots in your factories, the existing way to produce things should be changed, right? So that's what we call the digitalization. Okay, so this is all the foundational thing that we are seeing that more and more, and particularly with this digitalization, with these AI technologies. So now, once you understand some of these concepts, we don't need to go to the very complex concepts. And then let's apply that into a real case called fast food, right? Fast food is everywhere, and they have a very standardized menu. It's very easy to understand. It's not fine dining. So the menu is very short. You just have burgers, cokes, fries, and so on. For example, in McDonald's, right? So they have this standardized menu. It's easy to understand, and also there isn't much of the complexity. Second one is that this one is very much of location centric, that you need to go to the high traffic areas to collect to the revenue. And finally, the um, um, economic logic is called economies of the scale, because if you have a small restaurants, that is very difficult for you to make the money because of the rentals, because of the employees cost, all of this, right? So you need to have enough size so that you would be able to collect enough revenue and also to spread out the cost. So this is a very traditional fast food. And also, we already see this one happening everywhere. It's not anything new. We already see the shift from the traditional fast food to become the digital fast food, right? So particularly because of the COVID-19, then this transition simply speed up, and therefore the majority of the, at least in Singapore, as we know, the majority of the fast food already go to this digital kiosk. Right, so you need not to order over the counter, and you can just order using this kiosk. You can also order that using your mobile phones. And then it's also another change that's happened is that you need not to go to the restaurants to really have that meal, but then you can order that to be delivered to your home, right? You can see that this delivery thing actually is a digitalization if you understand how are we going to apply that concepts here, because you're going to change the ways that we run the business now, simply because now we have the mobile phones, so we can make the online offer, therefore we have to change our business process. Okay, so now you basically understand what is a shift, right? So we know there is a traditional fast food, traditional McDonald's, and this is a current digital McDonald's. So now let's think about this, just pause a little bit here and think about how can we really make this shift, right? So you know that, okay, so we're going to have a digitalization, we're going to have lots of visual representations, and also we're going to do the data analytics, but how, right? How do we really do that? Before that, let me just provide you this framework. We understand that when you do the digitalization of the digital transformation, it should always start with what is your business goals and objectives, right? And then you're looking for what's the relevant data source, and also you perform the data analytics. And then you using this data analytics try to get some insights. And these insights would help you to take some actions so that you can make the transformation. And then you move on to monitor the changes and try to do the revisions and also reviews, adjust all the time. But it's a very simple model, but it's also easy said than done, right? So how can we do this transition? If you have this structure, and then we apply to this context, how can we really use the data analytics as a tool to enable us, suppose that we are the owner of the fast food restaurants, how can we really change the traditional fast food to the digital fast food restaurants, right? I give you a pause and you can give it some thoughts. How should we do this way, right? Particularly with the concept that we just introduced, as well as these four steps. All right. So I think now you probably already have some ideas in your mind, right? So now let's start with the first thing. What is your business goal, right? What do you want to achieve by having these new data tools and also new digital technologies? The first thing that we want to have is always about revenues, right? So if as a McDonald's, at the fast food restaurants, how can we really increase our top lines? How can we really increase the revenues? Now let's think of the traditional business, right? So in the traditional business, you have to go to the restaurants, you have to order over the counter. And when you do that, how can we really increase the revenue? I think that, some of you might already have these ideas pop in your mind. By the way, if you want to, you can just always input that into the chat. Clearly, it's about the locations, right? Because as long as you can locate in a good place, as long as you have the lots of people, and then you would have lots of the traffic, then you would be able to have enough revenue. So, so the thing that we have to have is that how can we really find the right location now? So even for the traditional business, we can also use the data to support your decision. So now the second question, how can we looking for the good location? What is a good location for the fast food restaurants? And then I think many of you already also get the idea in your mind. Of course, if you want to looking for the locations, let's go to the center of the city, right? You go to the premium place, right? And then there would be more revenues because there would be more people looking for the food there, and there would simply be more traffic, right? Okay, so the data that you need to look for your location decisions is about your traffic, right? So you're going to looking for more people, more traffic. But should we think a little bit more? Do we need to have more granularities of the data? What is the insights that you want to get from that location? Because just to see the center of the city is still too broad, right? And we want to make a better decision so that we can choose the right location to get the good revenue. And then you can think a little bit more. You can think it's not just about the traffic, but it's about if I have 100 people, then each people's consumption amount would also matters, right? You have to have the traffic times the consumptions per people. And then you started to looking for those data as like, okay, so if I wanted to get this consumption, what else that I need to know? I would need to know the salary levels, educational levels, the affluence levels, right? Are they tourists? Are they in the industry park? Are they in the residential areas? So all this information actually would be there to be useful for you to make that decision, right? Because if you wanted to run a fast food, for example, McDonald's, you should always go to the shopping malls, right? Because the shopping malls, you have those people that's always shopping, and then they need to looking for lunch and dinner. So that would be the right place to go. You also wanted to see more things because that's about the revenue. What would be the second thing that you can consider? What would be another business goals for you to go for you to do with the uh, 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 with the fast food restaurant? The second thing actually would be the profitabilities, right? Because you can have the revenue, but if you also have a higher operational cost, then how can you make net profits? So then you're going to go to looking for, okay, so let's look at what would be the data that would be useful for me to decide on the operation cost or decide on the profits. Then you started to see something that's become more and more complex. Because if you wanted to go to a very good location, then you're going to think of what would be the rental cost. And normally the premium locations would require premium rental cost, right? And then you probably will not be able to make enough profits because the operational cost would be really, really high. The second one is that, yeah, we can think of the economies of the skills because you like this number three because for the restaurants, you have lots of the fixed cost. Fixed cost, I mean, you have to have the employees, you have to give them the salaries, you have to have the rentals. Every month you pay the same amount, so that's a fixed cost. You got to sell as much as possible every day so that you would be able to have the economies of scales so that you would be able to spread out the cost. Therefore, you want to get bigger. But when you get bigger, then you have this second headache. If you get bigger in the premium location, again, it would be very, very costly, right? And then if you wanted to have large restaurants, then you have another thing which we call the peak season and also off-peak season and also peak time and also off-peak time in the day. During the lunchtime, dinner time, you have lots of the visitors. You want to have very, very large restaurants so that you can really uh, get enough traffic within that 1 hour or 2 hours. But if you have such a big restaurant, so what about the off-peak time, right? During the time in the afternoon or in the morning, and no much of the visitors. And then if you have a bigger and a large restaurants, actually it's costing you money. So we are not trying to give you everything, but I just want you to go to started to see that lots of the decisions, business decisions, actually is always driven by the data behind it, right? And you started to see that even for the traditional fast food business, we needed to understand how the data actually would help you to make that decisions. You have to make a very sophisticated calculations of, how big, where can I locate, right? And also whether the revenues or the consumer traffic would be able to help you to offset all this large operation cost. And also you have to consider what would be the size of your restaurants, right? How many seats should be there? And when you consider of the seats, you also have to consider, do I locate in a place where there would be more individual eaters rather than the family eaters? Because even for one individual, they would still occupy one table, right? If you can have a family, then you would have four people that utilizing this one table. So all of this are the data that would affect your decision making. So now you understand what is fast food, what is data, and how the data is connected to your strategy, to your business. Now, let's go to that decision. Now, can you really figure out something that we can utilize data and what kind of data that we should use when we move on to become a digital restaurant? Just think a little bit more of this one, and we pause a little bit here, and you think a little bit of that. Is that just we just add on the kiosk? We can just spend 200,000 dollars to buy a kiosk and then just put that into the restaurant, and therefore boom, we become a digital restaurant. Or can we just go to onto some delivery platforms like Uber Eats, like a Grab, and then just see that we can collect the orders from that platform, and then we become the digital? Or is there something else that we should also consider? So here, as I said, normally here we would have interactions and have the debates and also people throw out the ideas and then we check each of them. But with this Zoom, we skip this part. But the idea is this, right? So when we try to look for this digital transformation, we started to see that the way that we do business actually changed, and therefore the data that we need also changed. Because if you think of the traditional models, we actually pull the people come to your restaurant. And therefore, we only have the data about that restaurant. In fact, when we collect the data, when we're looking for the revenues, we can only see each store and then how much revenue that they get, and then we aggregate them, we get the total revenue. But in fact, when we go to the digital, something happened because then we started to be able to get the data on the consumer level. We are able to get the individual consumer level. So in that case, then we have to think rather than to really attract the revenues to the locations, now we have to think how much money that we can make per individual. And then is that a way that we can engage as many as possible the consumers, whether they are go to the restaurant or to the deliveries, right? If I can get enough number of the consumers, then I would be able to make the revenue, right? So actually, this is a very important change of the business model. Rather than to looking for the locations, we started looking at each individual consumers, right? So that's one thing. Second one is that before we're looking at the data that's affiliated with the location, now we started to look at the data affiliated with each consumers, right? We started to looking for what's the consumer image. Who are consuming the McDonald's? When do they consume it? How much they spend on? And then we get to the second concept called the scenario-based offerings. Where do they consume? Because before, in a traditional model, there is only one scenario. They have to come to the restaurants, order that over the counter, and then just eat on the spot, and then they leave. But if we can really think of these individuals, in fact, individual might consume McDonald's in many different ways, right? Say they might just order that while they are studying, or they might have friends gatherings, or they even might be just in the gym, right? So that they want to have some diet food. So if you can understand those information about the consumers, then you probably can develop some personalized promotions for them. And then to push your information to them, you push the advertisements and push your commercials, promotions to them, you would be able to attract the traffic and you would be able to make the revenue. So this is a very radical change, right? So that's what we call the consumer-centric approach. You want to get the data of the consumers, okay? And then we just give a quick thing because I think we are running out of the time. Another thing let's talk about here is that standardly we not only have the offline consumers, who would come to the restaurants. Now we also have the online consumers, right? And then we wanted to understand how much coming from online, how much coming from offline. The second thing that we do in terms of strategy is that how can we really combine them together? The idea is that if we have the consumers goes to your offline restaurants, can we also convert this consumer into an online consumer so that even if they do not come to my restaurants, they can still order online and then we can still increase the revenue, right? So that's about consumer acquisition, the same thing, right? And if you have the online consumers, they order that offline, online, but then you can give them a promotion and you say, at this point of time, and if you go to some places, then you would get a 30% of the discount. So then you would guide the online traffic into some offline traffic, right? That's how you can utilizing the data online, and then you know the preferences of these online consumers, and then you can link them into your offline restaurants. That's one way that how you get the customer acquisitions. Second one, revenue optimization. We already talked about. We said we're going to change the way that we look at the business. We're going to looking for those numbers like the revenues per square foot and also the revenues per employees. We're looking for each consumers and to see how much that we can get from it. Process redesign as well, right? So you need to now, because your restaurants now is not only just a restaurant, but also it become a delivery center and also distribution center and also warehouse. Therefore, you got to manage the layout of your restaurants to accommodate this. And the last one is about inventory management, because when you started to understand your consumers better, there is a beautiful things come out because now you can have a better prediction capability so that you would be able to predict how much consumptions would come in the next 1 hour, next 2 hours, or next half day, or next days, or next week. When you have this very good forecast capabilities, then you can control your inventory. You can control how much materials that I want to buy, how much fries I want to buy, how much chicken wings I want to buy, and therefore you just made for order. So whenever there would be a prediction about the future consumptions, you accurately order the food or order the real materials. You don't waste the materials, and therefore that would help you to increase your profitabilities. Right. So that's about these new business models. But also something that's even more that another thing that some of you might think about is when you have this digital transformation, when you have this digital restaurants, how are we going to utilize the data in a different way? Previously, as I just mentioned, how do you looking for the locations? You just think wherever there is people, I locate my restaurant there, right? But you don't really know whether that the location will bring you the revenue until you open that until you after you open that restaurant, which means that you don't really make your decision based upon the data, but actually you collect the data after you make that decision already. You see the points here? So let me give you another example of how can we really change this and by making your strategy based upon the data, right? So rather than the other way around. So McDonald's actually, after they do the digital transformation, as we mentioned, that they can get the online uh, consumer information, they can also get the offline consumption information. What they do is that because previously that when you rent a location to run a restaurant, you have to go through these renovations, this and that. So it's not that easy. So normally the lease period would be 3 years, right? So it's a very long time. Even if you go there, you find that location is not that profitable, you have no choice but to stay for 3 years, right? But now when they go to the digital, they change the way that they find the locations. What they do is that they first of all looking at the online delivery data so that they would know in some neighborhoods there would be more deliveries of their fast food, right? And they also know what they order, right? They can order burgers, or they just order the drinks, or they order some other salads or something, right? And then when there are so many people that's order from that same region, that McDonald's can just rent and to put a delivery center there. They just put a delivery center. It's not a full-fledged restaurants, and also they can just rent it very cheap because you need not to in the premium location, you need not to be the street facing, right? It can be somewhere that's quite remote or quite inside of the neighborhoods. And also you can just have a 1 year lease, right? It's very flexible. And then you put your delivery center, and then this delivery center become your data collection center, because you keep sending and you keep collect the information about the online ordering, and you keep seeing that how much food was delivered to this center. Because with this delivery center, then it's easier for the consumers to really deliver. And if the data turn out that there are enough consumption here, and then you do the calculation, both the revenues and profitability is really good, then you can just convert your delivery center to become a full-fledged restaurant. And if the numbers didn't count, if the numbers didn't match up, then you can simply close that delivery centers. So this totally changed the way that they find out the locations. That's one example, right? The second example is that they started to offer more things for their consumers, like we just mentioned. They started to remember the consumers' preferences. They started to understand the consumers' behavior. These are all the data, and then they would be able to be more and more to personalize the offerings for this consumer, so that they always, for different people, when they utilizing the mobile phones to order the McDonald's, they all see different homepage. They all see different promotions, right? It's super personalized, and therefore, per each consumers, McDonald's can make more money, right? So they can make more revenue. The third thing that's third example is also quite interesting, is that they started to have these capabilities to make the predictions, right? As I mentioned, you can make a better prediction so that you can prepare the food. The other example is that when you are able to make the predictions, you are able to know how are you going to make the discount and also adjust your pricing. So what is a radical thing that happened is that now McDonald's, half an hour before their closing time, and then they would just quickly. It's in fact now they are using the AI to do this data analytics. They can make the prediction that if I can reduce the price by 20%, how much more demand would be created for this last 30 minutes. If I reduce my price, if I give a discount of the price by 50%, how much more demand would come? Now I have these unsold items. Then how much discount I should match with it? They have all of this data analytics for that. And then now, half an hour before the closing, they just give the discount, and then the manager simply approve because AI make this proposal, and then managers just approve, and then the messages, the promotions immediately go to all these neighborhoods, potential consumers, and then these consumers receive this notification, and then they come just order that online, make the deliveries, or they just come to the restaurants to consume that. So then just half an hour later, and then all the inventories was sold out, right? So that's how the business actually was changed based upon the data. So we can put them into the perspective. Sorry, the time really flies. So when we're looking for how the data really help you to make your decisions, we can see that in the future, the business going to have lots of the synchronized data. Right? All the information, all the data from all different aspects, all different channels, they would be synchronized all the time. Because once you have this synchronized information, you can make the real-time decisions. Like I just mentioned, what about your half an hour before the closing? Second one, you would become smart, as I already mentioned many examples. You can have this personalized offerings, and also you can have this smart decisions on the locations. And also on the top, we call it a systematic. The reason is that you not only have the consumption data about your consumers, but you can also collect their information about what's your recent grocery purchase, what is your recent medical checkup, what is your recent orderings from something else, right? All of this information probably can become a system, right? So that you can help you help McDonald's to make a better promotion, make a better offering for the consumer which would really satisfy the consumers. For example, you do not want to offer the McSpicy's burgers to people, just to finish the medical checkup and have a higher cholesterol, right? So in that case, if you can have this systematic data, the more data that you have, the more systematic it is, the more likely that you can have a better and more customized solutions for your consumers. All right, so this is something that we taught in the class, but we don't really have time to go through each of them, just to give you the idea. Right? And also you can see that I did not really go to the specific data analytics. I just want to give you the logics and the ideas behind it. Now, you can think of how are you going to utilize all the things that we just learned to apply that into this case? This is a hotel room called a staycations. It's a special hotel room that's to very popular among the families. They want to bring their kids, bring their families together, and then to stay in the hotel. But it's not a normal hotel room, which is boring, right? So everything's standardized. Staycation is, have some themes, right? But this is a traditional way that you're still setting the staycations as a hotel room. So based upon the thing that we said, can you utilizing this data-driven method and to think about how can we really change this business into something new, and therefore you can make money through something else, right? So this is an exercise that we can give to you. Before I give you some of the answers, right, in quotation marks, I just wanted to highlight this actually is the normal way that we conduct our classes, because we normally classes would start with a theory so that we would provide you some framework, because the framework would be universal so that you would be able to utilize it, apply that into different contexts. Then we normally would give you a real example. Our faculties, they would get the Harvard case, and we also ourselves also write lots of cases, and we keep close touch with the industry, and we always want to know what is going on there, right? So we want to utilize the real case to illustrate to you what's the best practices that's doing, and then we try to make the connections with the theory. And also another thing that you might see is that, like here, is that once we let you to learn this knowledge, we also try to help you to do some exercises so that you can apply that by yourself, so that you can have this hands-on experience. Another thing to highlight for class is that it's more problem driven, right? So we can give this one as just a lecture, but now you can just get these lecturings from YouTube or from many other channels. But for here is that we try to push you to understand what is the business problem to solve, right? And also we want you to say that what is the underlying logic? How should we think about this? Just now, if you can recall what we have just talked about, right? Is we started to looking for what's the fast food, and then we started to looking for what's the business goals that this restaurant is looking for, and then we move on to talk about what is the data that we should look for, and then how can we use the data to support your decisions, right? These are all the problem driven, and because all the real business scenario is always talking about solve the problems, either the operation problems or the consumer problems, right? So we basically follow the way that how the real companies really solve this, how they utilizing the knowledge to solve their problems. We follow the same way in our classrooms. Okay, so just to give you some idea of this staycation thing. Now we have this digital staycation. Doesn't mean that you don't have a physical staycation. You still have the physical staycation. But the idea is that if you really think of this one from the data, and you really think that it's not just about one room, but it's about each individual living in a room, then you start to think about how can I really make money by getting the revenues from each of these individuals. And then you started to think of how can I create new scenarios so that I can really collect the money from them. So these are the several examples, but actually you can be more creative than this. Just to look at one of them is that some staycations started to make the online videos, and they also started to sell the pizza, how can make the pizza classes. All right, so then you can go to the staycations and then to make the pizzas together there. But more importantly is that they started to the sell the package for you to make the pizza, and also sell the package, for example, if you want to sell how to do the flowers, and then they can sell more money. They can make more money by selling more of these packages of the seeds. They sell the seeds, they sell the flowers, they sell the pizzas, the tools, all of this, right? You can see it's not about a staycation anymore, but it's about you create these new scenarios, you create these new experiences so that you can generate more money out of that. Okay, so I think this is just to give you some idea of how we touch on the digital transformation. And later on, when Marie talk about all the electives, I would jump in back again to say that we have actually lots of the courses that are now focusing on the digital AI and also analytics. This one is just coming from a small piece of one week's discussion, right? And I hope that I give you some idea of what we are teaching, how we're teaching, and also I hope that you have enjoyed the session. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Zheng. That was a very, very insightful session. As you can see, we have quite a few questions which have come in, but I would request all of you to please wait. I am going to now straight away hand over to Marie to speak a little bit more in detail about the programs and the offerings at the university before we go into the Q&A session.
All right. Thank you so much, Sabahat. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, Marie, we can.
Okay, perfect. So just a quick introduction. So for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with SMU, so Singapore Management University, we are termed as a specialist university. So unlike our other siblings here in Singapore, we don't offer you a full suite of degrees. Instead, we specialize in business and management degrees. Now, as a specialist university that focuses mainly on business and management, naturally, we have very strong ties with the business from different industries, and we also do have senior management members serving on our school advisory boards. So you can see that we are one of the largest business schools here in Singapore. You can see from the picture, we're located in a very vibrant space right in the middle of the central business district. So that's why you'll find also that a lot of times we will invite industry speakers to come and contribute to the class discussions. And very often, so they're very willing to do so because of the campus location. So we have this very symbiotic relationship with the industry, and this allows us to be agile and proactive. This allows us to stay ahead of emerging trends. And as a student, you will get to leverage on this very extensive network. So as a younger university, as compared to our siblings, we have achieved quite a bit in terms of research and recognitions. So for the Lee Kong Chian School of Business, we are actually one of the youngest schools in the world and the only university in Singapore to hold the Triple Crown accreditation, which is awarded to only 1% of business schools globally. So this includes the AACSB, which is the American accreditation body, EQUIS, which is the European equivalent, and EMBA, which is the Association of MBAs from the UK. Now, as I mentioned earlier, SMU is a specialist university, and under the QS ranking for this, we are placed 15 in the world. So for the main program specifically, according to Financial Times, we are ranked 5th in Asia and 41st globally. So all these accreditations and rankings are actually a huge testament to the quality of our curriculum, the relevancy of our curriculum, as well as the caliber of our faculty members. Now, if you take a look at this picture, this is exactly how all our classrooms are modeled, and this is done intentionally. So it's a seminar style learning, right? So when you come into the classroom, you can expect that there will be a lot of classroom conversations and classroom sparring. So when you come in, you will not only be learning from our faculty, but you will be learning from our peers who will be coming from very diverse backgrounds, diverse industries, and different perspectives as well. So we place emphasis on classroom participation, group projects, and we also do bring real clients, real business problems for students to learn more. So our graduates have been praised highly for their soft skills. So this is something that we do want to cultivate in our students so that they can embrace this mindset and prepare themselves for what's next in the business world. Now, as a business school, we are not here just to train you in the technical aspects, but we're also looking for people who have the potential to be leaders for the future business communities, and also students who are willing to make a bigger impact, not only economically, but also socially. Now, the MIN is an 18-month full-time program, which has 2 intakes each year. So because we accept students from any field from all over the world, our core modules cover the business foundations. So we provide you with a very comprehensive understanding of business, and we are also very practical in terms of the learning. So we'll start off with 2 terms to cover the 8 core modules, and each study term comprises of 10 weeks of study, followed by 1 week of exams and the finalizing of projects, and then you get a 1-week break before you move on to the next term. Now, in the July-August term, you will complete the SMU XO. So the X stands for experiential learning. So this is where you get to do your projects with a real company, serving real clients. They will present you with a real-life, real-time issue, and students will have to take what they have learned during the program to solve this problem. So you somewhat become like a consultant. The O then represents overseas. So for example, this year, our students got the chance to choose either to go to Japan or Bangkok. So if you're interested in a developed country, you choose to go to Japan. Or if you're interested in developing emerging economies, you can then go for other countries like Thailand or Vietnam. So we always give you those options. So you then move on to the next term where you will cover your elective courses. I'll cover that in the next slide. You'll have a small break which gives you time to search for an internship, and you cover the internship requirement in the Jan-Me term. So likewise for the August intake, you'll have to meet the same requirements. The only difference is that the different scheduling of the various activities. So altogether, we will have the 4 terms and then 1/4 of the normal terms. 2 terms go to the core courses. 1 term goes to elective courses, and 1 term goes for the internship. So we have this very dedicated time for you to look for internships. So whilst it's not a guaranteed internship, we do have dedicated teams, dedicated career coaches who will help you with this. So we have the portal also that you would get from all the large companies, the internship opportunities. So it's called the On Track. So it's specifically just for our SMU students. So it's a one-stop solution. A lot of internship opportunities can be found here. And if you do well in your role, you will have the opportunity to convert this into a permanent position. So then in the November, December, you take a short break. And then in the next January term, you start to look for your internship. And by May, you should be able to finish everything and you can expect to graduate in time because of the internship and secure a position for jobs by the time you finish the program. So although this is a 1.5-year program, half of the year would actually be dedicated to prepare our students for jobs. So when it's time for you to select your electives, we offer you different tracks which allow you to showcase your specializations. So this is purely optional, but it will be beneficial for students who want to pivot or move or specialize in these specific fields. So I think that Prof wants to share a little bit more about the electives, Prof.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Marie. In fact, also some of you ask these questions, which I think is very relevant. Do we have a track on the analytics? In fact, this is something that I want to emphasize here because Marie, can you go to the previous slides? Yeah, so for example, when you look at the core modules on the top panel, you would see number 6 is called the business analytics. So all the students would have to take this one as a core course. You're going to get this foundational knowledge about what is analytics means, right? It's fairly basic. You probably have to learn something, it's called R or some Python. You have to get the very basic things. You need not to be the technical person, but you have to understand what's the underlying ideas behind the programming. And then please move on to the next one. Yeah, and then we also have this 4 tracks. But during this, within each of these tracks, you would see we would have the analytics content and also the digital AI and also the transformation things. Speaking of marketing, we do have a digital marketing, which is also XO course that you can have the option to go to Japan. We also have the marketing analytics. It's still analytics, but it's the more sophisticated analytics for the marketing decisions. For operations, we also have decision analytics that's related to operations functions. And also we have a course called online business and also marketplace. It's talking about more of e-commerce, e-business, right, platforms and so on. Finance, we do have a new course called the digital transformation of the financial services. They are talking about fintech, blockchains, cryptocurrencies. Those are the topic that we're going to cover. And also for the general, you can see we have this one course called the Leading Transformation with AI. That would be taught by a adjunct professor who themselves is a vice president of a very large multinational company, and he has lots of experience on utilizing AI in their business transformation. And also there is another course called the Machine Learning in Managerial Decisions. So you can see, although we don't have a specific track for that, but we provide you enough options. If you really want to become the experts of the analytics, AI, and also digital, to some extent, we think one of the unique selling points of our MEME program is that we not only provide everything that every else program would offer, like the breadth of the courses and also foundational knowledge of the management, but we can also think ourselves as the only or the unique meme for the digital business, right? So we cover lots of the knowledge on the digital business, and here you can also looking for. We also give you the open elective so that you can select courses from other programs, and we do have a computer science program that would offer you more of the technical things about the digital and also AI. Yeah, that's so much for me. Yeah, thank you, Marie.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, so in terms of global exposure, so there's also opportunities for you to be able to strengthen your global exposure. So apart from the SMU XO, we also do have exchange programs for students to consider. So you can see that we have about 8 universities that are listed here. So when you come to SMU, you are not only looking at Asian business, but also the global exposure that you can have from this diverse perspective. So combining them, we help you to gain some special advantages, especially when it comes to the job market. So from the moment you join the program, you will have access to our dedicated career team. So our career team will reach out to you from day one to help you to do one-on-one career coaching, you know, how you can spruce up your resume, your profile so that you'll be able to stand out. There will also be a lot of activities, professional activities that will be arranged for you, such as networking events or job fairs. Like I mentioned earlier as well, we do have the SMU job portal specifically for our SMU students. So in terms of the admissions requirements, you are required to have at least a bachelor's degree. We accept bachelor degrees from any field, so you don't have to come from a business background. If you are going to be graduating before the August intake, but you have not graduated yet, you can still put in your application first. And then once you have graduated, you can share your documents with us. So we also do require you to submit an updated resume. So a lot of times students will say, oh, you know, if I don't have any work experience, you know, do I still have to put up, you know, my resume? Yes, you do, because at the end of the day, we will still like to get to know you better and get to know all your achievements. You will also need to write in 2 essays, so detailing your motivations and why you want to join the program. You will also have to provide us with 2 referees, so they can be academic referees or they can be professional referees. In terms of the admissions tests, so we accept either the GMAT or the GRE, and if you don't have any of these tests, you can also consider to do our SMU admissions test. So if you're interested in doing the test, put in your application. Once we've received your application, let us know that you want to do the SMU admissions test, and then we will guide you for. Now, in terms of the English test, so the TOEFL or the IELTS, we only require this if your undergrad degree was not taught in English. So if your undergrad degree was taught in English, then this requirement will be waived. So to sum up the application requirements, the last step would be an interview with someone from our admissions committee. So it'll be a 30-minute online interview. So basically, this is a chance for you to share with us why you think you deserve a spot in the program, as well as for us to get to know you better and to ensure that your motivations are aligned with what the program can offer you. So how the application process works is first you put in your application, we will review it. If there is anything that we still require from you, we will work closely with you on this. Once you have done that, we will administer the SMU admissions test if that's something that you're interested in. The next step would be the admissions interview. And then within 1 to 2 weeks, you should hear from us whether you have gotten an offer to the program. So we do process your applications quite quickly. Now, in terms of finances, so the application fee is $100, but for students who have attended our session today, we will be sharing with you a promo code that will waive this application fee after the event. If you're interested in doing the SMU admissions test, it's $125 per attempt. We allow you to do up to 4 attempts. Now, in terms of the registration fee, it's $400 for Singaporeans and PRs and $500 for international students. And the total tuition fee would amount to $59,950. So in order for you to secure your seat in the program, students will be required to place a $5,000 advance tuition fee to secure their seat. So this will be offset from the $59,000. So for scholarships and financial aid, we do have a list of scholarships that are available to students. So you can apply for as many as you think that you are eligible for. But if you are successful, you will only be awarded one, and we'll usually award you with the top tier. So it comes in 3 different tiers. So it's $5,000, $10,000, and $15,000. So it's very much depending on the strength of your profile, as well as the strength of the essays that you have used for the scholarship application. All right, so applications for our August 2025 intake still open. Applications close 31st of May. You still have time to put forth your application. If you have any questions, please feel free to write to us at mim.admissions@smu.edu.sg. Easier, you can just scan the QR code. And you can also stay tuned to our upcoming events by scanning this QR code here on the right. So over to you, Sabahat.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marie, for the wonderful presentation. Quite a few questions have come in. Few of them were around scholarships, which Marie spoke about. So I'm hoping that answers your question. We have gone a little bit over time, but I would request Professor Anne Marie to please stay, and the audiences as well. We are going to now start answering the questions shortly. So without taking much time, I'm going to take our first question, which is what is the career scope and, let's say, an average salary for a data analyst if they were to sort of do their graduation at SMU and then enter into the workforce in Singapore, just to get an overview of this.
Okay, so we don't usually share specific salaries for specific roles.
Right.
We usually share with students that the type of salaries that they can expect after they have graduated from the program usually relies on many factors, such as
Right.
what is their background, what they have done previously, what are the specific type of roles or industries that they want to go into. So do they also have what the employer is looking for? So there are many factors that come into play. So we don't usually share specific
Sure.
salaries. But if what we can do is we can share an employment report after this.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that those insights will be quite helpful as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Govind. We hope that answers your question. Next question is from Divyam and Dr. Zheng. I will address this towards you. He wants to know how can analytics help businesses stay ahead, especially in this very, very competitive environment where a lot of online and offline businesses are popping up all the time.
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. In fact, particularly with DeepSeek and many other open sourced softwares AI come out, in fact, it's enable lots of the small business also jump onto this analytics AI digital tools to really build up their competitive advantage. So because of course we cannot answer this question in a short period of time, but the
Sure.
idea that I get, right, is just my personal view, is that it's a matter of the learning speed, that whoever that's are able to learn as fast as possible and also to utilize this one in their real business operations. I
Right.
think they would have this advantage, first mover advantage, now become really, really important. Yeah, it's only for the next 2 to 3 years. After that, I think this would become a commonplace. Everyone would know this. It's just like
Yes.
Excel. Everybody should know how to use Excel. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's a
just
very
like
important life
personal.
skill.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's a very
exactly,
important life skill. Thank you so much.
exactly. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much,
yeah.
Prof. I'm going to take my next question, Marie, from Prince, who wants to know what specific qualifications does the admission committee sort of prioritize for applicants who are looking to apply for an MS or an MIM program? What are some do's and don'ts? And I'm sure this is going to be super helpful for all of the audiences present here today.
Mm. So we accept students from any background, any field. There are
Correct.
no specific prerequisites per se to joining the
Hmm.
program. What we do is we actually practice a holistic approach when we are reviewing candidates. So we'd like to take into consideration a few factors. So not only just their GPA, but we also do look at recommendation letters. We look at how they do in the tests, the SMU
Right.
test or the GMAT or the GRE. Also, very importantly, now, even more so, we look at how well they perform during the interview as well. So you know that essays are part of the requirement,
Yes.
but with the help of ChatGPT now, we are starting to see
Yes.
some commonalities in the essays. So I think the interview is a good time for us to really get to know students. I think they
Yes.
need to be genuine and authentic in their application. Share that with us and just make sure that everything aligns. They know what they want to get from the program and they have the right motivations essentially. Yeah. So we look
Right.
at everything as a whole.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marie. That's really helpful. I'm going to move quickly to my next question from Fabian. Prof, you could take this up. What are some of the
Yeah.
common misconceptions about analytics which you might also come across? Students might have these questions. A lot of people in the business force might have these questions. So, what are some of the common misconceptions which are out there, and how does one address them?
Yes, yes. It's also a very good question, very insightful. In fact, lots of people would think, oh, analytics, as long as we have this analytics, then boom, then our strategies would become super and we should be able to make a lot of the money. But,
Yes.
just now, this masterclass is really about that, it's really how are you going to make this match and how are you going to see the insights from your data analytics and then
Mm-hmm.
try to utilize that for your strategy. Another concept I think is because people normally would think it's an automatic process. As long as I have the data, then I should be able to have the analytics. But in fact, it's not. Sometimes we would get this rubbish in, rubbish out thing that you get lots of the data, but you are not able to discern which data is good, which is
Right.
bad, and also you cannot
Yes.
discern what's the right way to analyze it. So I think analytics is really about the way that you analyze it, right? And also
Right.
just now that when you the master class, we say you got to look at it into the right angle, right? So you have to know where you start, like whether you should focus on the consumer or you should focus on the locations. So I think
Right.
that's all these things are the misconceptions. It's very useful, but there are lots of things that you have to make the subjective choices out of that. So I think the more that we learn about analytics, we kind of like dismiss it, right?
Mhm.
So we don't really treat it as something that's uh, kill everything. It's just a tool that we have to learn how
Right.
to utilize these tools better. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. While
Yeah.
we're on this topic of data analytics itself, if you could very briefly give us a course structure of uh, the course offered at SMU, what does the course structure look like?
You mean adding a course, or does this one mean the entire curriculum?
The entire curriculum, just an overview, if you
Ah,
could.
okay. So for the curriculum, just now I mentioned that we do have a
Yes.
course that we have the business analytics that would give the foundational knowledge, and then move on to the electives. This one for the students, up to the students to choose.
Hmm.
So they can choose for whether the data analytics for marketing, for operations, and if they don't choose any specific tracks, they can just looking for this uh, business transformation with AI or the machine learnings and also finance track. So I mean, you can think of this way is that as I mentioned, you need to know the specific context where you're going to utilize
Right.
this analytics. Therefore, we give you the basic training, but then you should also combine the analytics skills with a specific specialized knowledge, specialized track. Yeah, I thanks
Right.
Marie to pull this out.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, you can see here as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So under each track, we do have the digital and also analytics content. But on the other side, here Oh, I think I have to add on to this because we have this track called the general. General basically means no track. You can choose
Okay.
any course. For example, you can choose a course under this general column, but you can also choose one course from operation, one course from marketing. You can do all these free combinations by yourself.
Right. Thank
Mm,
you. Thank you so much, Prof. That was
yeah.
really helpful. Marie, my next question would be to you, and I'm going to combine a lot of components that have come in the Q&A and put this together. If you could speak a little bit about the career services support that SMU offers, particularly international students coming on campus. Also, is there any opportunity for students to work hands-on on any projects which are happening? And a little bit, of course, about the on campus and off campus housing available for them.
Okay, so I'll start off with the career support, right?
Yes.
So earlier on I mentioned, like the career team will be in touch with students from from day one, like from the beginning
Yeah.
of the program. So they would help them with the one-on-one career coaching. So there's going to be the
Mhm.
one-on-one career coaching. There'll be a lot of resources that will be provided. There'll be a lot of guidance that will be provided. Now, because the internship is a compulsory component of the main program, the career support is very important as well. Yeah.
Right.
But one thing I think, like I mentioned earlier as well, while it is compulsory, our career services would only be able to help you with the guidance and the abundance of resources. But at the end of the day, students will still have to interview for these opportunities, just like they would any other job. Yeah.
Right.
So how well they perform during the job as well, the strength of their profiles as well. So that plays a part also in the type of internships that they do eventually
Right.
secure as well. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Sorry, there was another question
Housing.
about housing, right? Okay.
Housing. Yes.
So what happens is that after you have been offered a seat to the program, we do give students a very comprehensive guide, on
Hmm.
what they can prepare and how they can prepare for next steps here in Singapore, and that includes accommodation as well. So we
Okay.
do have some like hostel accommodations that are
Hmm.
available, but most of our students eventually prefer to reach out to agents and just rent apartments here in Singapore.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was very, very helpful. We have a few more questions remaining, which I'm going to take up quickly. Professor, this one is for you. Shrishti wants to know, can you tell us a little bit more about how to reduce the turnaround time while a business goes through a digital transformation, and how can effective analytics sort of help with the same?
Yeah. Quite nice question. I think, Shristi might have some business backgrounds or, some of the internship backgrounds of this one, which is very specific. But, let me not to answer this question, but to give you the example, because digital transformation to some extent is really about changing the mindset.
Right.
Normally, for example, we normally get this question is that, oh, now we have lots of these autonomous driving cars, these AI-driven cars. So how can we change our traffic lights? But then actually we tell them that if every car is autonomous driving cars, we don't need to have the traffic light system to start with. So that's really the idea that what do we mean by digital transformation is that we cannot
Right.
utilize the existing business models or existing operational models to think about how can we really utilize the digital tools. But in fact, it's the time for us to rethink of these business models. Like, in the future, there might be no traffic lights. Similarly, maybe turnaround time might not be the main thing that we should focus on anymore. Right. So when we have this digital transformation, I would, I'm not giving you the answer here, but I just try to provide a new perspective of
Yes.
this. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah.
Marie, this is going to be my last question for both of you. I know we've gone quite a bit over time. Uh, there's a question from Milan who wants to know about the SMU AT content. Can you give them an overview or maybe provide a link or so, which will be helpful? And is this available for students applying to other programs other than MIM at SMU, or is it specifically just for MIM?
Okay, so for the SMU admissions test, we specifically for the MIM, you will be given the option, but for the
Right.
MBA program, you would need to submit either a GMAT or a GRE score. Yeah, so
Thank you.
you can only for the MIM program, you can opt for the SMU admissions test. But what I would suggest for you to do is if there is another program that you're interested in, reach out to us and then we'll be able to guide you on which are the tests that we will be accepting for that specific program. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, the other question that you had.
No, that's just the one. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I
Maybe I
think,
can add
oh,
on.
Yes.
Sorry, I think there are two questions. I think
oh
it's a
yes.
similar
Yes,
questions.
yes, I'm going to take them up right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Because I
moving on
think
to those.
many of you, many of the students ask whether they can get the real data sets or do the real
Yes.
projects and so on. First of all, we do have the SMUX and also business study missions that you got to
Hmm.
connect to the real clients. But specifically for the data analytics, I think for some of the courses, they really give you the real data that they get from the company. Although they have to do some modification, right, to make it
Right,
easy and also for the confidentiality reasons. But you work on the real data, and then you're gonna to learn how to apply that one. It's not fake the data. Yeah.
right,
So, but of course, whether you're going to have the real company to bring their real data, real time real data for you to do the analysis on the spot. Currently, I don't think we have that part yet. We do have the SMUX for other projects, but not for the
right.
data analytics yet. Because data, is quite sensitive, right? So that they don't really want to bring the, the real-time data really to the classrooms. Yeah, but this is a good points, and we
Yeah.
try to get as much as we can. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor. Uh, thank you, Dr. Zheng. Thank you, Marie. I know we have gone quite a bit over time and we've tried to answer almost all of the questions possible. To all of you, you've been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for your questions. If you still have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us at Seed Global Education or to the team at SMU, and we will be more than happy to guide you. Thank you once again to all of you. Have a lovely evening and good night to my panelists here at SMU. Look forward to connecting with all of you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much, Sabahat.
you.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
Bye.
Bye bye.